Hi, I'm Paul and this is Lee. Welcome to the Just Pull the Trigger podcast.
This is the show that discusses the trials, tribulations and triumphs of a small business owner. On today's episode, we're chatting to Caroline Southgate. Caroline is the Managing Director of Doris Jones home care provider in Southend. We chat about partnerships, leadership and how AI definitely has its place in the care sector. And Paul gets a telling off too. It's a good one. Let's pull the trigger.
Caroline, thanks for coming on.
Nice to see you.
We had Richie Mack on about an hour ago.
Did you? That's very nice, yes. There's some significant people in this town as well.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was just thinking that it wasn't so much of an entrepreneur conversation, but it was really good conversation about how the characteristics of a sportsman cross over to...
It's a good point,
to business world and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
And the highs and the lows and...
The highs and lows and the relentlessness of keep believing in yourself when no one else is going to necessarily do that for you. It's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, and I touch on that because obviously you must have experience with that with Matt, right?
With Matt, yeah, I have a very interesting relationship with a son who is he's a determined creature, and you've got to be a bit nuts, haven't you? You know, you've got to be a bit nuts. You've got to be a bit. And you have to be a bit nuts to be a business owner as well, because it's not easy.
Deluded almost.
Yeah,
a little
deluded, absolutely. And I think it's a genetic thing that you are capable of being that single track minded until you get to where you want to be. And equally, you can take the ups and downs of those careers in sport are really tough. Like you think, recession can kick in and knock your business for six. Yeah. That could be a shoulder injury or a bad wind or a leaf on a ball or something that you have no control over, and yet you've got to brush yourself down, get back on a plane, go back to it again. That is very similar to business. Yeah.
It was really interesting how we were talking about, I can't think of any other sport, and I keep saying this because I'm just really interested in it. Can't think of any other sport where you can play crap. For 51 weeks of the year, and then have one great week, and then that's your year done.
Yeah. But don't you think the amateur golfers, that's what hooks, I don't play golf, but my observation of golf is that what hooks amateur golfers in is that one good hole.
It's one good shot.
One good shot, and they keep going back for more. They keep buying new kit. I mean, the world of golf is like amateur people will go in their thousands and watch the Open and go back and buy all them. The trading stand at the Open is vast, full of people buying bits of kit that are going to make them hit the ball like Rory. Yeah. And they hit it once so well and they love it. Other sports people don't do that, do they? If you're a bit past it with football, you stop playing. Oh. Whereas golf, you just keep going.
It's like some sort of dopamine hit, isn't it?
It must be.
Yeah. It's
Whereas, you see, I can't do that because I tried golf lessons, and you'd think, wouldn't you, there'd be a sort of a genetic link to having a decent golf swing, just someone in the family, you think you'd hope. But because I wasn't instantly good at it, I didn't want to do it. I
through impatience or
just like a personality disorder, really. I just like to do things I'm good at, and so for me, what the effort that Matthew has put in and Richie put into practicing, refining, I just don't have the capacity for that.
Really?
So if I take something on and I can see that I've found my thing, and I can get good at it quick, I'll go in that direction way before I'll go in that direction.
Is that interesting? Well, I don't want to say this really, but I'm going to say it because I heard you say it before about yourself. Is that slight ADHD?
I think the problem with women my sort of era is that no one ever considered that was a thing. Yeah. And I think looking at the way the research has gone around the catch up, what you don't ever want to hear someone say is, "Oh, everybody's got ADHD these days." No, it's not that. It's that there's an enormous game of catch up going on. And I the more I read about it, the more I think the personality traits of those things are, if you want to call it ADHD, but if you do the test for it and you test positive, you should take notice of it. And I did the test around it, and I understand myself better with it than without it in terms of I don't need a label.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I've said before, I don't intend to try medication for that. But when I've heard of people in their 40s and 50s who've done that, it's mind-boggling that the grief around, if I'd known this before, or if someone had explained to me that my brain functions like this, I would have been more successful more quickly. I wouldn't have felt like the spare part in the wrong job at the wrong time, because somebody would have gone, probably not a good idea for you to go and work for the NHS. it's too big and it's too so I think there is an element of concentration. And Matthew, these people who are professional sports people, they don't play their sports like, I mean, I did rugby physio at one point. The people who practice to be at the top of the game, they don't play sport like the rest of us. They play sport like their lives depend on it, and they'll refine their physique to make sure that they can do the thing, whether that's darts. Maybe I'll take that back over the physique. But they'll refine that movement in such a way that they can rely on their body to deliver a thing. That's not like the rest of us, is it? We don't.
You mean muscle memory?
Muscle memory, the psychology of it, the thing. And of course, what's happened to golf is it's become much more athletic.
Yeah.
And so now these guys they're hitting the ball further. They do it. So when you look at the big old famous golfers of the past, they've got great history, but they were smoking and drinking as they walked round practically. And now you've got this lean. So Matthew and these guys, I don't want to make the whole thing about Matthew, but in your mid-30s, there is a chance that you've still got a considerable amount of fitness and physique and longevity in your sporting life, which never happened. There's never been a generation who've been able to do that. We know so much more about supplements and diet and mental health and all those things. You put the whole lot together and you've got a much longer career if you can keep going, you know, if you can keep the mental stamina up, which is I've learned a lot watching an athlete in the family, you know, and it's an interesting ride as a parent, put it that way. I think I should write the book about the parenting a kid that's determined.
Well,
is determined. I've got more than one determined child. Yeah, that's a nice thing, isn't it? But yeah, so Matthew as a child who wanted to do something so badly it hurt, it was you always. I didn't know anything about that. You'd want to go, what's your backup plan?
Yeah,
keep studying at school.
He had no backup plan, did he?
No backup plan. And the head teacher at his high school, which is around here obviously, and I said to him, I'm a bit worried about Matthew playing too much golf in the summer. And he went, Mrs. Southgate, that boy will learn more on the golf course than he does here. So, and he was right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's not all about him.
No.
I mean, every professional sportsman has to have a mother that pulls them down to size.
Of course, Yes.
You can be the biggest fan, and then you go, it's your sister's turn to pay attention.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Doris Jones.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, so Doris Jones herself was my grandmother.
Right, I was going to ask you where it came from.
Yeah, so there's a determined creature if ever there was one. She was pretty amazing too. It would be about 110 now, so she died quite a long time ago. She was a very Catholic, strict sort of a person, and believed very much that if you said a lot of prayers, things would get better. I mean, really quite an unusual. That's quite a hard thing to grow up with, actually, because there's that sort of Catholic thing. But what she did do was she kept her daughter, who was my auntie, at home in 1945, who had Down syndrome, and she looked after her at home where everybody else would put people living with Down syndrome at that point, if they survived, they probably were living in an institution somewhere locked up. And so she was part of a group of parents who were determined to create a new world for people with learning disability. When you really think about what World War II had done, is it had said, we are not tolerating prejudice against other people, whether that was, I mean, obviously the Holocaust thing, but in the Holocaust there were a lot of people who were eliminated in that system who were disabled. It was pretty wide, and I think they as parents, they loved those kids like any other parent, but they were at a turning point in history where they said, actually, no, we're keeping these children with us. And that it took a lot of courage to do that. So MenCap, the families that started MenCap in order to support each other through being different sort of parents. Massive leap in history of how, and my auntie Tessie lived till she was 51 with Down syndrome at home with us all as a family. I shared a bedroom with her as a teenager. And it was hilarious. There's me being a teenager and her being very neat and tidy and all the things. So my grandmother was a big influence in that she wasn't perfect by any means. She was hard work at times. And anybody in my family might be listening and go, she was hard work. She was the matriarch. But what she did do was keep us all at home. So what happened was when I did my physio training and then I wanted to set up a home care company, what are you going to call it? And the lovely Julie Curtis, actually from High School Design, she's a local business as well.
Yeah.
She said, you just need a name. You just need a name like Doris. And I immediately burst into tears. And she's going, what did I say wrong? Of course it should be called Doris.
Yeah.
And then we've been there 14 years being Doris. So it's a nice tribute to her.
Yeah, of course.
And it does what it says on the packet. It says, we will look after your Doris person in your life the way we'd want to look after our own. And so it's quite a simple concept, really, as a brand.
Yeah. And the concept behind it is, as I understand it, the highest
level of home care in your own home. Let's keep.
So there's no homes.
No homes, no buildings. Don't own a building. We rent a couple of thousand square feet of office space, and we deliver fantastic service in people's own homes with a whole amazing army of really kind, well-trained, clearly very disciplined individuals who know exactly what they can and can't do, and we back them up so that they can go into anybody's parents' house and keep them on the road, keep them at home as long as we can. I'm not anti-care homes, there is a place for that, but you can extend the time that someone can cope living at home if you get the care really good. And as a physiotherapist, that is a different lens on that. It's a very big sector, home care, but my lens on it is that I have a physiotherapy rehab mindset.
Yep.
And the leadership that I bring to this sector is very much about how do you make the most physically and mentally, but how do you make the most of what you've got rather than what you haven't got? And there is a risk with lots of health and social care things. It's all about what you can't do. Whereas we're like, okay, well, if you can't walk that far, let's put the chair halfway across the room, walk to that, stop and start again. Do little tiny changes that make it possible to keep someone at home. And that's what we do.
And that was sort of derived from your experience within the NHS?
A little bit of NHS. I didn't stick around in the NHS very long. I wasn't particularly employable. Which is quite normal for slightly more entrepreneurial. But I've heard last week from the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists that actually 50% of the current physio graduates coming out will go into private practice. So there is clearly an entrepreneurial buzz around physiotherapy anyway. And a lot of physios will go into private practice, but they won't necessarily have a look over at social care. They'll have a look at sports injuries and backs and necks and that sort of stuff. So their main competitors will be things like osteopaths and chiropractors. Whereas I did that, and then what I was seeing was that there were a significant number of older people in their own homes quietly struggling with recovering from things who just needed pushing on a bit. So I started doing home visits to those people as a physio. And then I came across this lady called Janet. I always tell Janet's story, but Janet wasn't coping very well at home, and she had a care company, and the care company wouldn't work with me as a physio to improve the way they did their care to improve her outcomes. So basically Janet told me to set up a care company, and off we went. So not much of NHS, but all that experience pays off because you see a lot in the NHS. So that's where we got to. It's quite exciting. I did a talk to Westcliff High School for girls sixth form a couple of weeks ago, and a young man came up to me who's obviously got family who are doctors, and he said to me, "Are you really that enthusiastic about your career still?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Because all the doctors around me that would like me to be a doctor, they're all so fed up with their jobs, and yet you and I'd said I was 60, and he said, "You're really that enthusiastic?" And I do honestly think that I have launched myself into lots of different versions of myself and ended up with a business that I love by being a bit enthusiastic. If you're not enthusiastic, go home, go somewhere else, do something else.
I think particularly in care as well, you've got to have that enthusiasm to offer a service that is caring, basically, because if you don't care, then that service is just not there, is it?
Lead it. You've got to lead it with the idea that you really care, because I do really care. And I think I can walk in the office some days and hear that something's gone wrong with, let's say, a hospital discharge or a social worker or something, and I can get really wild, and my team know I'll get really wild about it, and it's
imagine that.
Oh, they're really I get a bit, and I think it's about really knowing your stuff. Then you've got to be able to pick up the phone to the social work team or the MP or whoever it is that you need on your side to say, "I need you to do this because this is not right." then you watch everybody else behind you go, okay, I've got the confidence to stick up for the rights of the person who's more vulnerable than I am. And I think that it's bigger than just being a bit soppy around the edges caring. The last thing I want is a care worker who comes to me saying, I'd like to look after people the way I look after my mum. I don't want you to looking after your mum is really tough. I can look after your mum in a professional way that makes it easier for you to go to work because it's not as stressful. It's a professional relationship, and it's that's the difference.
Is that so? Then going on that, like it's the hardest part of the whole system, the employment.
Yeah, it's a people business.
Because you need to literally, like in that sector, if they're having a bad day, they're having an argument with their wife or their spouse or whatever, something bad's happened, they've still got to go in and be like, jazz hands or whatever.
Or they've got to quietly go in and give a family the confidence that they know what they're doing very calmly, just as someone is about to die, and they've got to leave all that outside. So they've got to be, and they can have to do that in one shift. They can leave the house with all the kids at home and all the problems. Particularly, think about the pandemic, they were the only people coming out to work. Some of these staff were leaving really worrying situations. They were coming out into the environment where people have been told, stay home, save lives. And I'm asking them to not stay home, come out. And they do that every day of the week. They're leaving home. They come out. They might go to one person who needs cheering up, and they need to be the voice of cheering up. And the next person is really worried about something, and you've got to troubleshoot that they're worried. Someone could be a bit depressed, someone could be dying, and the last person might need cheering up. So the emotional roller coaster of acting the part of a great carer is not easy. And yet they're referred to as an unskilled workforce, which is outrageous because it's not unskilled at all.
There is going to be at some stage a form of acting because they're not going to be necessarily happy with something that's going on in their own personal life.
No, and we do little things in our training sessions like, if you shut your eyes, I get everybody in the room to shut their eyes, and I say, I'm not going to ask you to share I'm going to ask you to think about something, because you have to be careful, because whenever someone does that, it's like, oh no, I'm not telling anybody that. So I get them to shut their eyes and think about the funniest moment you can think of in your life. Just think of a really funny moment. You know, one of those where you think back and you can remember what your stomach muscles were doing because they ached, and it's really funny. And that's why I'm not asking them to share it. And then I say, and we really think about it. Think about where you were. Think about how funny it was. And we do it in 30 seconds. And then, okay, open your eyes, look around the room and look at everybody's faces and feel the energy in the room. It's changed. And I said to them, that's the thing you've got to practice in your car between that client and that client, particularly when people are living with dementia. If you're arriving at someone's house gloomy, you've already messed up the care visit because they will just soak up the gloom. So a reset between visits is a thing. It's a really, And to be honest, imagine if that was in here. If you said to everybody that if anybody who's watching this who employs people said, take 30 seconds out and come back happy, you transform everybody's workplace.
I'm going to use that.
It's great.
Take your time and go for a walk around the block. It's well-being in the workplace, isn't it? Really, it's like we do it in order to try and make the visit for the person better for the person, but it has to work for yourself, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I think mindfulness, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think gone are the days where you're hiring people and sort of like, I say gone are the days. It's certainly not how we do it. Ruling with an iron fist or whatever. You know, the people that work for you, they've almost got to be your friends to a certain degree. And I know there's a bit of a grey line there sometimes, but
there is. And I think you need to be a friendly, good leader. You need to be a kind leader.
Yeah.
And you can't be everyone's friend because you're always the boss and nobody likes the boss. Yeah. There is that. We get that. But there is a point where they know people have to know where they stand. You've got to be straight and fair, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard. It's always hard to pull off. Straight, fair. And the mission. What's the mission? What are we trying to achieve here? Go back to your purpose. Go back to your why. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
We're doing this to earn a living. Yes, I make a living out of this, but I could have stayed in the NHS. I'd be on a whacking great salary with a much bigger pension pot than doing the hard way of growing a tiny business up into something that makes me a living. But if your why is to sell out for millions, you are going to be a very different leader to the person who's making a great service as the first thing you want to do. And that's every sector's got that, but the health and social care sectors are a mix, aren't they, of things run by hedge funds and people being employed badly. Yeah. And you want to sort of not be that organisation. Yeah.
I mean, this might be a question for later on in the podcast, but what is the, end goal.
The goal.
If there is an end goal. I know I heard
it's interesting.
Speak about retirement, and that was not
don't
a
talk
word.
about
It's a
retirement.
dirty word.
You know, there'll be every podcast I've ever been on. It's like, don't mention retirement. The goal for me is to have a purpose in life for as long as I'm standing up, really. And I don't. We looked so from a business perspective. You can look into all those sort of theories around exit strategies, and you should look at what happens if you're you meet this goal or that goal. Absolutely, it's very motivating, and businesses don't have to be. I think the temptation is that people will talk about exit strategy as how many millions is your business going to be worth as the only option or the only success. Don't feel obliged to measure your own success by a big number and an exit that is you no longer being part of your business. I think that's one option. And I looked at that option and decided that actually it's not necessarily timing. We're not there. We're not even thinking about that as the extra. We're not even thinking about exiting. We're thinking about a really good business that cracks on and carries on for as long as there's a need for it. And my role in it might change. I've got operational manager and a registered manager giving me a buffer between me and everybody else in the thing now. I didn't have that at the beginning, so I don't know what's coming next in terms of how big Doris grows, but we're not trying to be international franchise of thousands of companies. We're just a really good solid local business, and we understand the local population, and we will do whatever we can to respond to the needs and the changes of what that means. And there are going to be changes. There's going to be funding changes, there's going to be technology changes. If people want robots to do some of the things we do, we need to be ready to be able to service the robots.
Can you see that happening?
It's coming in Japan and Korea. They've already got robots doing things like personal care in a bathroom situation. A robot can help you stand up and use the loo and sit down again. And they've got toilets that are, bidet things, washing, cleaning. So there is a level of technology that may well kick in.
Yeah, never considered that, to be honest with you.
No.
I thought that it was a sector that probably was reasonably AI proof. Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think there are different reasons why people will chase the technology. One will be cost savings because people are expensive, and the other will be it will just be around cost savings as in trying to keep. Sorry, my brain's gone into meltdown. Two things about AI. One is people are expensive, and so and for the NHS or for the state-funded care across the world, where a state is trying to fund care for people, they will want to find ways to save money. So if you can find technology that will do stuff that humans do from the big funding position, that's a good thing. From a personal service situation, I don't think I'm going to feel comfortable with a robot or a technology. So I think we're already in a strong position in the private sector of this, where people are choosing what they get for this money, for this care thing. I still think there will be a very big demand for human touch.
Oh, totally.
I do think that.
Yeah, I think particularly the age of the people you're dealing with, whether that might change when I'm 80, because I would have been through 40 years of AI or a robot in my life. But you've got people who obviously this is just completely alien to, and they would just not be open to it whatsoever. No. And neither would the families, because it's obviously such a new technology.
No, and I think we've got a job to do to really get under the skin of what do we want in our old age to happen. And we've already got, Apple and Amazon and all these people doing the Siri, hey Siri, open the curtains, turn the lights on. I mean, we've got in our own family homes. One of my daughters got the light switch on and off, the heating goes up, and she just talks to it. So that's great. If you've in any way incapacitated, I mean, I broke my leg, so I had 8 weeks a couple of years ago in bed with a broken leg. Being able to tell a gadget to turn itself on and off and turn the lights on, lock the door, pull the curtains, great. We'd never have known that existed a few years ago. So you have to be careful to go, it's not all bad.
No.
And there's really clever technology for older people, or where people are worried about someone, where you can stick all the sockets in, the kettle and the light switch and things, into an AI version of this thing, which is learning your normal behaviour. And then it's alerting your daughter in the other part of the town or the other part of the country, mum isn't up yet, she hasn't and you set thresholds. And so the person is living independently with just a little bit of a buffer of an early warning system. And the people in care talk about pre-care. prevention, and that might be your Apple Watch telling someone or telling you, actually, your blood pressure's gone up a bit, your temperature's up a bit, is there an infection, just check for this, have you drunk enough, all those. So there is some really great stuff that is going to keep us. I bet you are already using some sort of technology to monitor your fitness or to set your goals for your calories or your protein intake. So I don't think we can't just go, all technology is going to be bad. It's not. It's going to be so normal. But it's just a question of where that fits with a business plan.
Yeah, I think that's the conversation we've been having with a lot of people is that it's, you lean into it and you work with it, and those people are going to benefit from it rather than thinking completely one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just enhancing the personal touch rather than completely overriding.
Make it more efficient, maybe.
Absolutely,
make those sorts of things. So so for example, all my staff drive a car to go to work. We have to have drivers because our customers are spread out across the town. If we have driverless cars and they've got the route mapped in, imagine how much more efficient the driverless car is going to be, delivering the carers on time with the petrol down to all the whatever the electricity.
I mean, we're a parking space.
Carer can sit in the car and write their notes while they're being driven to the next one. So the efficiency opportunities of some of this big stuff is huge, isn't it? Didn't Henry Ford say if I'd asked them what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses?
Yeah.
And I always think of that phrase. Is that when you ask people, do you want a robot to help you with care? Of course they're going to say no. But bear in mind that the robot could be the car that delivers the care. I can't employ people who aren't drivers. Well, that would solve that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's right. I think when people say, robots, they just think immediately it's replacing that nurse that's
the human.
That's in Doris's room.
Yes.
You're looking after her, when actually there's 99% other
it could be the
things
bed.
it could be.
It could be the bed that actually you just say out loud, oh, my back's aching, could you put me in a more comfortable position? And the bed moves you rather than you having to press a button and wait for someone to come in. Yeah. So I think the broader element of technology is going to be great, but we just need to pick our way through. And the speed of it is phenomenal. I mean, I was talking to someone who's about the same age as me a little while ago, and we're like, what has happened in our lifetime is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen in the next 5 years is probably all of that and some.
Yeah.
And we're not ready for it. People are not ready for the fact that a lot of people in office jobs are going to go. They're going to lose jobs all over the place. So I think we'll have a business. I hope that people will still want people to talk to. I don't think we can ever replace all of that.
I think the businesses that will be okay are the businesses that have that human touch.
Practical,
you know,
plumbing, building.
Yeah, that's why we had a guest on recently. He said if I had my kids, they're asking me what I need to do. He said, learn how to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cybersecurity and trades. That's it. Yeah. That's it. It's all going to be left.
Yeah.
Or writing the code. Someone's got to write the code. But I guess eventually the AI writes its own code and sorts.
Yeah, it's scary times, but
it's different.
But it's different. I think that's a good way of putting it. Different.
I don't think we should be scared of it.
No,
I think we do have some control over what we put in our own home and what we do. I mean, if we wanted to be really scared, we'd believe all the conspiracy theories
they're
about
going to take
everything.
over the world.
Exactly. And there's also these things like these lovely musical people who are the creative people should be very worried about their intellectual property. That, stealing people's music, creating new music, writing books. I had the privilege of being in communication with a very lovely author called Kate Moss, who's a real advocate for AI and the intellectual property of authors, because she's been selling her fantastic novels and doing the Women's Fiction Prize for years, and suddenly they're just picking off people's work. I don't think for my business that's not as big a threat as other sectors, is it?
No.
But if you're a creative, the last thing you want is someone to take the beauty of creating away from you. Why would you want to do that? So there'll be a backlash. There's always a backlash.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's like anything really. Like you said, if you think about 30 years ago, who would have said we've been paying for our shopping on our phone?
Exactly. I don't even bring a handbag out with me anymore. Just phone is everything, isn't it?
Well, I said to a couple of friends the other day, like, I couldn't find my wallet and didn't really care. If I'd lost my phone, I'd be mortified.
Oh, you'd be beside yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's the robot in your pocket, isn't it? That's the thing. So we need to just crack on.
And it's listening to you.
What are you called? Pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's it.
Get on with it.
But it's listening to you. How many times have you said something to someone and then all of a sudden adverts come up?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be advertised. They're going to be guns advertised on my thing. What's she doing? But I think, we need to crack on and be embracing it.
Yeah.
The more you resist it, the more you're slipping back so fast that your competition are going to embrace it.
I think it's come to a time now where normally, even me, I would have said, no, don't be stupid, that's not going to happen or whatever. But now you've actually got to go, you've almost got to think almost the craziest scenario, you know? Well, maybe that might happen.
Just look at shopping,
you
know, and the big Amazon thing is just mega. You can order anything and say, what are they doing? Are they driving around in those vans with that widget that you need in 12 hours? Where does it's sort of on your doorstep?
Have you been to the tour?
I haven't.
No, we've been to the tour. It's crazy. Scary
stuff.
It's again, it's robots and people.
Yeah.
So it's robots going to get the stuff off the shelf and the person who's actually packing the stuff.
Putting it together, yeah.
But that's been going on we went 10 years ago, didn't we?
Not quite. It was just before COVID, I think it was. No, it was probably about 5 years ago. But yeah, it was
amazing.
Yeah, it's I think when you're in that kind of industry, you know, like the picking and packing and dispatch, it's something to marvel at, really. But
what's even more interesting is how far someone like me who's not in that works out how to use it intuitively. No one sits us down and teaches us how to do it. We just seem to the latest thing comes along and we absorb it. And I think that's the interesting bit for me, is what does the consumer not know that they could do that could transform your business? So the fact that the likes of Amazon, all of the internet shopping has become just normal function, despite the fact that no one's been taught how to do it. I didn't go to school and learn how to do it.
No, that's right. Chat with someone. It's actually Will.
Oh yeah.
And he's at the last dinner, and he said, I thought it was really interesting. He said, we're 2 or 3 years away from people not having websites.
Yeah.
And just having Siri type like an AI agent on your phone. Yes. And it has your credit card details. It knows about you. Yeah. Siri, buy me a packet of crisps and send it to my house. You know, and it just does it.
Do the research. I mean, in our case, do the research around home care and find the local leading company with the highest thing, check their prices, talk to them about 3 times a visit. And maybe the inquiry that comes into us is saying 3 times a day, this is the care plan. Yeah. And all we do is schedule it, you know, meet the person at where they're at. There's an enormous amount of tech that will make communication easier. Yeah. I think you're right. And I think the gadget is not the point. It's the consumer's attitude to the usefulness of it that's going to be the thing to look out for, isn't it?
Because the consumer's always still going to be there. The consumer's not going to become a robot, I hope. You know, so the buyer is always going to be human.
Yes, absolutely. It's the meal prep kits and all those things that have changed so much. Can you imagine my grandmother thinking that there is a full circle about food delivery, because she had a grocer in the village who she would phone up and rattle off a list, and it would show up the next day, all packed in a box. I remember that. Mr. Fuller down in Benfleet, his family probably around somewhere. He had a little shop, grocer shop, and he delivered, and he used to wear a white apron, a bit like open all hours. So there is an element of circuitous, isn't there? Yeah. Where the thing, but then the next level of that, where you can, Just Eat and all those, fair enough. We haven't got to that with care yet, where there could be a care worker on every corner ready to help. We haven't got there. Could
Turn
happen.
Up on his bike.
Could happen. Yeah. But the teach you how to cook boxes with all the kit in. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing.
Now, who would have thought you'd get a steak through the door?
Exactly.
Or have delivered you.
Exactly. I am old, and you're sounding like the good old.
No, but I'm even like.
What's happened to the world?
But obviously, I think our dad is quite up on technology.
Yeah.
But you're staying with him at the moment.
And I ordered off Deliveroo or Just Eat from Asda, right? Or Waitrose or something. Yeah. Let's say Waitrose, yeah. And it turned up, and he went, "Where'd you get that from?" Right. I went, "Well, Waitrose delivered it." He went, "You what?" And he couldn't believe it.
Right.
And I went, "I just did it off the delivery." He went, "Really?"
Didn't know they did.
He's like, "Carol, I can't believe it," And but.
So here's the thing. What you have to do as the generation below my generation is to not undermine the person who does that. You have to be careful, because what my kids have done is they go, oh, give it here to the phone. When you're looking a bit confused by it, that feeling of feeling undermined, I do this in my dementia training, but it's way broader than that. Because the speed is so fast of these changes, there is a risk that when you're just a little bit older and you've got kids coming behind you, there is a very strong chance that you are going to be the dinosaur.
Yeah.
So give the dinosaur.
Are you telling me off?
I'm telling you off. Dinosaur, but it's a really, really societal problem where we have an ageist society across the board. So the sweet old lady term, absolutely never use that, and be careful of how your dad feels about you. Recognizing that he didn't know how to do that and didn't exist. Be careful, because ageism is going to be knocked on the head as fast as we need it to be, and feminism took a really long time to kick in and it's still struggling, but ageism is even better. You can expect to live to your 100, but in the stages towards your 100 you will come and go in terms of your insight into all the things that you are going to need. So at some point in your life you might need a bit of help with medicine, you might have to have an operation for something. In that moment of slightly vulnerable, because it's not your specialist subject, there is a chance that someone makes you feel less than. And we really have to work really, as a whole population, we have really got to work really hard on ageism, because that comment is like, if you change the age and you went, this girl didn't know that Asda delivered, you would absolutely know that you were being sexist. And the problem with ageism is it's so entrenched we don't always see it. So that's my warning. If you can cut that one out if you want. But it is really important, because if I'm going to look after a population of people who perhaps go from 60 to 100, I need to make sure that the people who are encouraging them to live as independently as possible don't use that language. It's so entrenched, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I appreciate what you're saying.
No, and I think it's interesting, and I think it's going to go even faster in that direction, because you think, how old are you both? You think you're 45. You're old already. 44. You know, you're old already.
All right.
But
tell me off and tell me I'm old.
There are so many 5-year-olds, but there are 16 to 20-year-olds coming up behind you who are going to think, and we need to stop that. We need to stop it, because we know that one of the things about technology and changes is what could get lost is wisdom and knowledge and experience of what went before, and that will be priceless. Stuff. The person who knows. So I met somebody who's studying Spitfire engines, and there was a woman, I can't remember her name, I'm not going to say it in case I get it wrong, who in World War II, when Spitfires were being developed, spotted there was a bit of an engineering fault and people were dying, and she spotted it and it got changed. And so if someone wants to build a Spitfire right now, if you go to a book or you go to AI and ask it to give you the manual, if they don't know that particular widget 5 years after the first one or 2 minutes after the first one needed to change, the wisdom and the knowledge and experience disappears. So until we start respecting wisdom and knowledge, we're at risk of losing stuff, throwing the baby out with the bathwater to tech-wise, don't you think?
Yeah. I think it's quite significant what you said, that when, rather than, Dad was struggling, you go, I'll give it here.
Yes, that's happened.
If that knowledge isn't passed down, then they could be completely leapfrogged, and they wouldn't have any, you're going to have that generation where they don't know.
No, but they also will feel, no one wants to feel silly.
No.
If you're at school and all the cool kids are doing that and you don't know how to do it, what you do is you back off, and we know, everybody knows what that feels like.
Isolating,
It's isolating, but if we're going to live to 100, there are going to be so many changes in our peak learning opportunities, which is your school days or your 20s or your 30s. So what happens, how do you keep learning well in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, so that you can keep up with with what's available to you?
Do you think intelligence will go down because of
that's a good point,
because of AI? Because obviously now everything, when you didn't have calculators, you had to do it on a piece of paper or whatever. And now this is sort of like that version of like you don't really have to learn about history, because you just type it into an AI agent.
Concentration seems to be a big problem, doesn't it? If you read, there's a very nice book called Stolen Focus, which talks about, we've got stolen, our focus has been stolen. I think concentration is part of the problem, but I don't know, I still see, I see my grandchildren studying and working really hard.
I do say the younger generation, they do seem more intelligent, to be fair.
They're soaking up history, geography, politics, criminology, although they do seem to be. And when they get, I mean, when you look at, you tried to do an 11 plus paper in the last couple of years, absolutely impossible. My grandchildren who've done that, I look at them, I think, oh my word, that feels far harder than when I did it. So I don't think intelligence and emotional intelligence and all those things, I still think people will have experience. I mean, you'd like to think that if all those other things are being done by the robots, they've got time to sit and read a book.
I suppose if you put something in an AI agent and it pops out, you're going to read it and you're going to learn it anyway, aren't you? So you're getting maybe the information, faster information.
So I did some work with an app developer. They're called Feed Your Elephant, which is sort of feeding your brain. And they had a really clever bit of AI in the back of an app for micro learning, and they've done it across various sectors. They did one that was called it was to do with wine, being a sommelier, and we looked at it from a care point of view and started to build it. And the principle of that, which is where it comes to the intelligence thing, is that they've taken all the technology around, all the research around learning and how we learn, and gone, okay, the best way to learn is you might do a class in something, but for the exam process, the best way for you to learn is to actually have micro learning, little bits of knowledge coming at you all the time. So this app is, it's the same starting point for everybody. It's like we did it for care. We need to roll it out really, but so the app would tell you everything you need to know about medication supporting with medication. What does warfarin do? What does this do? So you'd get fed it, but it would block you out after 4 minutes, so you can't binge learn.
Right. Okay.
And then what it do is every day it's like gamified. So every day it would give you a quiz. What it's doing is my quiz is going to be different to your quiz because it's learning what I've learned, and then it doesn't give me that question again. So if I get that question right a couple of times, it moves around and it learns how far to push my knowledge because I can't look up the answers and it can see what I'm doing. It does rely on you being a little bit honest about it, but that actually works very well because you get quite competitive with yourself. But what you're getting is unique to you as you learn, rather than just doing like I've been doing jump speed, the Italian class, which is great. It's similar principles, micro learning, 4 minutes, 10 minutes, you set it 10 minutes a day, 4 minutes a day, and it keeps repeating. But what was so clever about this was that it as an employer, I could go and look at a dashboard of everybody in the team who were doing the quizzes. It would blow out the water that once a year sitting in a class.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've done a manual handling for a year. Well, nobody's learning from that, are they? So I suspect the answer to your question about will intelligence get dumbed down is the way we learn will be probably more appropriate than cramming and sitting in a classroom. The thing that worries me most as a physiotherapist is the general population health is reliant on people getting up and moving.
Yeah.
And if we ask them to sit in front of a screen to achieve everything, we're not doing that any favour. So general fitness, if you get type 2 diabetes, you are hundreds of % more times likely to get dementia, and so we need to educate people around the whole piece, don't we? So,
they say like sitting is the new smoking or something.
Absolutely. And when I'm doing manual handling training with care staff, I say to them, actually, the health and safety regs around you are so tight, I'm not going to ask you to lay a patio. You'll do that at home. But the people I worry about in the business more, the people that sit all day, not the people who do care all day. They're up and about, moving, stretching, lifting, moving things. There's limits, and we don't lift humans. So I think an intelligent approach to the use of intelligence, otherwise it becomes unintelligence. But let's call it artificial unintelligence sometimes.
True. Yeah.
But we'll see.
Do you think as a sorry, I was going to say, do you think as a leader of a big team, do you think that would be quite challenging in trying to introduce kind of any AI? Do you think there'll be a bit of pushback in that?
Yes. When we first brought in digital care planning rather than written notes, there were a significant number of people who were like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. But actually what you find is because the technology writers have got it right, they actually learnt it quicker than they thought they would.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to people, have you ever booked a flight? Have you ever booked a hotel? It's not going to be any more difficult than that. Oh, okay. So that's about the interface, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there was a pushback. And I suppose that will happen in any event when people don't like change.
What is that when someone goes in to take care of someone? They might say to an Alexa the digital notes or
yes,
something
that's
like that.
already happening in some places, that you can say write
it down.
The care homes, some of the care homes have embraced that, because they've got a static population. each room has got like an iPad equivalent, and they can say, "Hey Siri, Mrs. Smith just got up and had a wash," blah, blah, and it goes straight into the centralised note. So we're not quite doing that, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
And we'd give all of our staff a phone preloaded with the software that's got all the care planning. So it's GDPR, safe as houses, and everything they need to know. They can toot the horn on it, which is to blow your own trumpet and tell us what you've done that's really good. That's really nice. So it's like, tell us what you've done that's a bit different, So if they've done something really just a bit kind or a bit, gone the extra mile.
Yeah.
One lady said last week on a toot, she said, I was with Mr. So-and-so and he was looking out at the water at the estuary here, and there was a big ship, and she said he was really interested in the big ship. So I looked it up on the internet, and we found out where it was going and where it was coming from and who it was owned by and all this, the app for the thing. Yeah. And it's just that, so she's able to just tell us, I did something extra. And then of course that's what we can prove we're outstanding with.
That's that attention to detail, isn't it?
Tiny detail. Yeah, exactly. Whereas if that was a written note, she probably wouldn't have written all that.
Yeah.
But actually, just to tap it in, tell us how it is. Yeah. If you're a user of a service, you don't want people to be writing about you or making decisions about you that you haven't got some control over. Yeah. So I guess the way that technology goes with, your bank accounts on your phone, everything's right there for you to have control of. And I suspect all the services, the NHS are doing it with the NHS app. All those medical notes used to be a secret. Doctors used to write things about you that were really personal. Yeah. This rather fat older lady, you think they wouldn't get away with that anymore because you're going to read it. And that's a really good innovation, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Put you in control of it. Yeah.
Being a woman in business
and
starting out and growing a company, have you had any experience of pushback or negative moments? Or
good question. That.
Thank you.
The good question is, and the answer to that is, a lot of women, and I say this as a woman, no one else can say that, is that women are their own problem at times in business. I'm absolutely a feminist, and I have lots of male friends who are feminists too, and we need equality, equity, all those things. Absolutely, whatever that thing is. The one of the biggest problems I see as in a female-dominated sector, so health and social care are stuffed full of very capable women, is women themselves, regardless of all the other stuff, and there is a lot of other stuff, the childcare and the sharing of home life and all that stuff, regardless of all that, the biggest problem I see is a lack of self-belief in women themselves that they could do it. Yeah. And I think if you have women in your life who are completely capable of doing stuff, I think the way women have traditionally got undermined, or there are things that make women lose their own confidence. There are flipping horrible hormone changes. Being menopausal in my late 40s, 50s without any support from the medical profession is weird. You suddenly feel like you've lost your, what you look like, what you feel like, and all of those things stack up to start to be your own barriers that you put in your own way. Realistically, we've had a women prime minister, whether you liked her or not. We've had, there's fantastic role models of women in business, women in politics, women in things. And I think the reason there aren't more is some of it is mechanical, like who does the childcare, who delivers the babies, all the things that are inherently part of your physical makeup. But equally, I think the biggest problem is women getting in their own way. So I think to support women into business is a really big agenda, and I know there are lots of groups who do it. I came from a very female-dominated profession in physiotherapy, so getting into physio wasn't a problem. Yeah. And I think that I personally needed the credibility factor of that degree with that title to then shift forward. But then there's always that, I need to read all the books about business and I need to do that. And I think women themselves can undermine themselves, and it's a bit like, come on girls, get you.
Why is that though? Do you think it's just because we live in we have lived in a world anyway where it's just sort of like women are in the kitchens, so to speak?
There is a historical element of that, of course there is, but we are way down the line of people being able to, and there's very much about the demographics of that. So if you went to a good school and you had good opportunities and you've got good supportive parents, you're gonna be I went to St Bernard's in Westcliff as a grad grammar school girl, and there was no question that we were doing anything other than going to university, no question. And so that as a starting point, education, if you educate women all over the world will change. And it's that sort of big society level stuff will make a difference. But on an individual level, if I mix with other women who are doing businesses small and large, they're phenomenally brilliant at it, because what they bring is a different kind of leadership. And I think they just need to step up and be bold and brave and have the courage of their convictions to challenge the norm. And the norm, unfortunately, the norm based around history is not always very welcoming. But we've got a way to go yet. But clearly it's against the law to discriminate against somebody for that in itself, and you've got to believe it, haven't you?
Of course,
you've got to believe it. But there have been barriers, but mainly your own, getting in your own way, not being quite as confident. Men will ask for a pay rise where women won't. You know, those sorts of silly. Where is that coming from? But it's so deeply entrenched that we just need to make our daughters and granddaughters a lot stronger. And I think they are feisty, strong women who understand, and also train the boys. I mean, my generation of women in the school were being told you can have it all, which is quite tricky, because the boys' school were never told, oh, you see those girls down there, they're going to need you to be a slightly different version to your fathers. And that traditional role of the dad who disappears at 7 o'clock in the morning, particularly in a commuter belt, disappears, doesn't come back and doesn't engage with their own family logistics is a big problem, isn't it? There's only so much energy in a day. So hopefully the next generation of men are educated better to see their female partners as equals. Doesn't take a lot, does it?
No, I definitely think that's changing. You know,
I think,
I'd like to. You know, in my household, it's not, and I'm sure in yours as well. And a lot of blokes, there's not that many people that just go to work, like you say, 7, come home at 7, have their dinner and go to bed, kiss the kids goodnight, and that's it.
No,
it doesn't. I don't think it works like that too much.
No, I think that's changed.
You're not babysitting your own children. You're parenting.
Yeah.
You know, it's all that language change, isn't it? And it has been, and it will continue to be a challenge to be an entrepreneur anyway, because there's always going to be barriers. But the last thing you need is an internal voice going, "Oh, don't know if you're good enough for that." So that's probably where and I think women need different support to grow businesses. They need a slightly more holistic support network to take the good idea, and they're less risk takers than men are, I think. I mean, there's a big statement, isn't it? But women in business are very careful with the pennies, and very much. I mean, even I'm not a big fan of Margaret Thatcher. It's only because I've mentioned her twice. But that whole thing of protecting the family finances is an old system. And so in some ways there's that element of, if you know that you've got a woman who's a leader, you've probably got a very safe pair of hands. But what you might have is an over risk averse person who's not prepared to push the boundaries, maybe. So but that's about self-reflection. That's about finding your mentor, finding your...
I think these days you've got to take, it's just my own opinion, you've got to take risks, because I think the world just in general, everything's getting so expensive. You know, you can't really outsave sort of, I don't know, maybe inflation or whatever, or things costing more. And I think people that don't take risks tend to have a negative effect long term.
They might do, and then what you need is to balance it out and go, actually, there's a whole load of venture capitalist money that is thrown at businesses to grow. And actually, the venture capitalist money, that money is not yours. And you're not looking after it properly, and eventually someone might go, not having that anymore, not making a problem. The whole lot collapses. And I think that whole understanding of risk and how fast you put, and how we owe the planet the favour of not wasting everything. And if there's resources being made, delivered, whatever that is, we shouldn't be wasting it. And I do think that there is a difference between how a woman will approach risk and how a man will approach risk. You've already said it. I think you need to take more risk. Well, I might be able to come in as a consultant to your company and go, hang on a minute, why are you flopping around the edges with all this spare loan money? Why are you servicing that debt when actually that car needs to go, and those extra expenses? I do think women bring that. My finance director, my business partner, is an accountant, and she's extremely cautious around overspending. Becomes a bit of a thing sometimes. Can we? No. But But she's kept us safe, that's the thing. She's kept us safe. We got through a pandemic, got through the thing, when you suddenly need to spend £10,000 on a box of masks because the government, no one's going to provide them, you need to know you've got some savings to do that.
True.
So, yeah.
So in Doris Jones, do you see any of the people, like obviously there's a lot of women in the caring area, do you see a lot of I see a bit of entrepreneur in her? Yeah,
sometimes, and sometimes people disappear off. In my physio practice, certainly I had several people along the way where they started working for me privately and they go off and set up their own practice, which is great. It's really, that's the threat. That's an opportunity, not a threat. The thing is to always be proud of your alumni.
Yeah.
Some people absolutely are not entrepreneurial, and that's fine too. There's that element of, if somebody is itching to do something their way and get on with it, you've got to support them to do it. And sometimes that means they leave. There's that. And otherwise you just need to be the best version of an employer that you can be, and that you employ people. They have to be paid before you are, and that's why entrepreneurship, that's why business ownership is such a big deal. People might go, well, they get paid dividends, and so because everybody else gets paid first, and then the tax man gets paid, and the VAT and all the national insurance, all that gets done, and then you take some money out of what's left.
Yeah, I've always said that when you employ people, that you almost work for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a huge responsibility.
Absolutely.
A huge responsibility. I think the bit that keeps you awake at night is always a good question in any business. What is it that keeps you awake at night? And it's almost invariably going to be people related.
Yeah.
And the biggest, horriblest thing to ever have in your business is to not have enough money in the bank to pay the payroll. It's the horriblest moment of your life, because you know very well that you can ask yourself to scrimp and save and eat, pasta again, but you can't ask your employees to do that.
It's not just your mortgage you've got to worry about, is it?
Not even your mortgage you've got to worry about, is it? It's definitely someone else's. Yeah, absolutely. So the leadership element of being mega responsible for everybody else, don't take it on lightly. And that's why I think the risk takers in the sorts of businesses which are around people and employment, women are good at those businesses because they do have an eye on the caring element of that, of those people. And I think if you are a risk taker, male or female, but if you're a risk taker in business who's prepared to go so far into the risk, which is usually money related, you are probably the worst employer, because you don't care enough to know that in a week's time they're all
that
going
could go.
No money.
House of cards could go.
And you don't, and to have to sit down and make people redundant across a team because you've done something wrong. I mean, very, very difficult. The people in big corporate life, when they've got the job of doing that, horrible. But they can blame the big people in the sky who've made the decision, but you can't, and that's a horrible feeling, and that's not good for your mental health, is it?
No.
Terrible, horrible. Yeah,
it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun along the way.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
So if you were going to give one piece or a few pieces of advice to someone starting out in your sector, say they're a physio and they want to,
move into social care.
Yeah,
move into social care. That's my advice.
Okay.
Physiotherapist. This is the bit where every physiotherapist who's qualifying and has qualified in the last few years needs to open their eyes, look over the wall, come and see what we do, and see how amazing social care is for the population, and look at it as an entrepreneurial opportunity to take all your skills, not just your physiotherapy exercise, but your leadership and your problem solving, and bring it into this sector and help us to move health into social care so that it really truly integrated. There is so much opportunity all over the world. There is so much opportunity for my own profession to be working in this sector, and I now realise that what we've done at Doris is actually quite trailblazing. Physiotherapists aren't traditionally in this sector. People think of physios as, rugby or the hospital, and nothing in between. But what we do have is huge amounts of skills that are around leadership, delegating tasks, inspiring other people to be working in an environment. So I would say pull the trigger. If you're a physio, pull the trigger. Come and have a look at social care, because it is a good place. It's a really good place to bring your skill to.
And that's both financial and job satisfaction.
If you set up a private practice physio and all you look at is people's necks and backs and knees, you'll make a living.
Yeah.
But if you add to that, looking at people in their older age, look at the longevity piece, look at how people want to be fed, and hydrated, and the nutrition aspect, the science that is behind physiotherapy is really broad. We look at anatomy, physiology, psychology, leadership. It's got all the skills to be looking at how to keep older people really well. Why would you not be working with a whole team of people that you can train to do everything from nutrition, hydration to pain management? Absolute no-brainer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No brainer. Come and work in this sector. I'm 60 and I'm still excited.
I want to come.
Come and work in the sector. It's great. Social care gets such a knocking in the press. It's always that social care's to blame for the hospitals are empty, and well, come and fix it. We're fixing it.
Yeah.
But we need brave MPs. We need really brave politicians that will talk to everybody else about where's the funding for social care going to be. We need to talk to families about the fact that, yes, your dad might lose his house if he moves into a care home, but actually we can probably use some of his rainy day money to keep him living at home better. So there's all sorts of conversations about money, about what we as a society want to put into community care to keep people well. It's all there, and I just happen to have been a physio, moved into that side of it, and I think it's great. I really enjoy it. I've enjoyed talking to you. It's very good.
Thank you. Oh, the one thing we do lastly, your favourite quote, if you've got one.
Oh my goodness, there's lots of those, aren't there? Did you tell me that before?
Have I thrown it on you?
Favourite quote.
It was on the brief.
Oh no. Oh no. What do I say a lot of? Well, I did say it earlier, didn't I? I did say, and I do refer to it quite often, is with the Henry Ford quote, which is, if I'd asked them what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses.
Yeah.
And I do quote that quite a lot, because it just allows for that point where you go, oh yeah, maybe something different is the answer. Yeah. And what we do is different in a slightly different way. What you're trying to do here is different. So that's the one. Maybe that's the one to stick with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
I'm going to see you tomorrow, aren't we?
Yeah. Lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Friday lunch, that's not a bad thing.
No, exactly.
That's good. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting. Yeah. And so if anyone has a family member that they...
Oh, anybody in the Southend area, that wider area, who's worried about someone who's older, who might need a bit of help, they can find us at dorisjones.co.uk. Even if they're not going to use us for care, we're very happy to steer people in the right direction and give them some ideas of where to get care from, because there's a lot of us in care and lots of different prices and lots of different services. So we're good signposting. Anybody's welcome to give us a call.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ba-boom.